You're the man that puts the numbers next to the players for Madden. And, you know, we just had Madden rating review week. Tell me what that week is like for you. Because when I write something that I know is going to be, you know, it's going to cause some stir online, I kind of like brace myself for Twitter. When these numbers go live, are you like, all right, here we go?
That's probably the best way to explain it. Like, so you prep for it all year. You know it's what everybody's going to talk about. I mean, the past few years we've made it even bigger. We put it on for a full week with ESPN, and like players care, everybody cares, and yes, like always, there's an expectation that like, wow, Madden missed on this. I can't believe they did this. Why did they get this? And I mean, sometimes there's like a collective people agree on it, and other times it's like somebody's just a fan of some team and they just feel that guy should have been there.
Right.
It's just like an endless array of opinions come this week, and technically, I mean, my opinion is one of the ones that goes into it in the first place. So I totally understand.
The numbers change each week, right? Once the season begins.
So there's that too. Like you have the weekly roster updates. You have everything that we do during the season, like leading up to it is not a hard line. It's only going to be this. It's never going to change. We only feel this way. It's not like a good play on the field can't, you know, change our opinion. That's the whole reason we do part of our roster updates, like adding players or updating players or lowering play. You know, any of that, it's all a week-to-week basis. There's a lot of film watched. There's a lot of football games watched. There's a lot of discussions. So it's something we take pretty serious in season.
And exactly, like what's your process for coming up with these numbers? I mean, you don't just wake up one morning and say he's a 92, he's a 99. Like you put in a lot of work for this.
So right. So we spend, I mean, the rookies alone get about 300 hours.
Wow.
Man hours of spending time breaking down, reading your scouting reports, watching this, watching that, picking out the tape, and then rating them even outside of ratings that may not matter for that position because maybe they played high school quarterback or they were running back. Like Vita Vea was a high school running back. So you want to make sure that you at least, even within his position, you give him something to kind of replicate that. So we have to go through all of it. Sometimes there's a miss here and there and we go through an update, but like that's the best part about roster updates. But for the most part, we try and find everything we can and put it all in and line it up as best we can, stack ranking it versus the rest of the league.
All right, I want to get into some player stuff with you here. I want to start, well, you're probably expecting this, Ja Marr Chase, right? Second-year wide receiver, Bengals.
I'm not surprised. And I like the guy a lot, too. I don't think there's any reason to not like the guy. So and the best way I've had to explain this one to most people is like when you're a one-year production guy, basically we only have like 82 or so 90 overall and above players. So not even our top 100 in our game is a 90 overall and above. So he's right there on the edge, and wide receiver is one of the most top-heavy position passing league nowadays, right? So I think you can make a debate and an argument and all this, that based, if you just want to base it on last season and say, hey, he's here. I don't think I'd really disagree. The only thing that really stopped him from getting any closer or any higher is we still need to see a little bit more because consistency is king, and he also had an unfortunate 11 drops. So, and that's not counting preseason where he had some more.
Right.
The only areas he could really, you know, continue to bring that forward. So I don't see why, you know, come week 3, week 4, week 5, he's an 89, 90 territory this season. You know what I mean?
Kyler Murray just signed a big deal, a big extension with the Cardinals. He's not in the top 10 of quarterbacks. What do you think he needs to do to get into the top 10 of the Madden quarterbacks?
Consistency, and some mid-level accuracy is kind of an area of struggle for him. May have to do with the height. I don't know. I'm not going to – whatever. I can't pick and choose that. I just know that that's kind of like one of the areas that he could get better based on what we've seen in analytics, deep stats and whatnot that we can get from some of our sources. For whatever reason, sometimes he'll sail the ball a little too frequently there, sometimes outside of the numbers too. So I'd say there, because like we know the athletic ability is there. The deep ball is really good and the short game is pretty darn solid. So I'd say along with the mid accuracy, probably a bit more consistency throwing deep, because a lot of times he will just quickly get the ball out instead of taking some of the bigger time shots, unless it's a one-on-one to D-Hop, which he won't have the first half of the season or so this year. So could give him a good opportunity to jump up. Because I want to say we had him a little higher at one point, but then he kind of cooled off at the end of the season.
Yeah. Yeah, he had a tough end of the season, but he's so good with his feet and with his arms. He's a fun to watch, and the Cardinals are psyched to have him now for a long time.
Yeah, he's our second best rushing quarterback right behind Lamar Jackson, and that's not to be slighted. Despite the fact that he's not really a tackle breaker or anything like Lamar, but he can do everything else on the run.
I want to talk about the defensive side of the ball. Cowboys cornerback Trayvon Diggs was not all that happy about not being in the top 10 overall cornerbacks. You just made a face. What's that face for?
I love Trevon. I mean, you can see the helmets behind me. Like, I don't just have Cowboys in here, but like I do love Trevon.
Yeah,
and I'm not surprised he feels the way he does. I mean, I get it. So the biggest thing we have in cornerbacks is they're almost always strictly judged on ball production, which understandable. Like interceptions is king to a lot of people. In our rating system, like catching matters, but only so much. The consistency of how often are you letting guys open in man or zone, et cetera, will affect those ratings. He gave up a ton of yards. He's not the best in the run game. Obviously, things he can clearly get better at, and is still very good. So we don't treat him bad. Like I just had that kind of debate with Xavier Howard. I see that too. Like those two are probably two of the ones that people can like point to. I think Xavier's tied for 10th. I think he has a better case of, this, that, and the rest. He played hurt, didn't play all that well at some times last year. Finished the year really strong, but didn't really face any top-flight wide receivers, which also matters. Trevon coming off not his best performance in the playoffs. Kind of add all these things up. We look at all of these things. I don't see why both can't continue to climb up easily. Trevon's mostly consistency because he reminds me a ton of like Asante Samuel, really high ball production, makes a lot of good plays, but sometimes he'll get burnt and, it's a touchdown.
Hey, sports fans, if you want to watch more sports seriously, be sure to check out these clips right here. And make sure you're subscribed to the channel to see all the great content from us here at USA Today Sports.